1976 was full of enigmatic, genre defying releases from around the world, but one of the most baffling of all was the ethno, raga, avant garde instrumental album put out by an ensemble led by Grateful Dead drummer Mickey Hart, the project Diga Rhythm Band, and from their singular album Diga, the track Magnificent Sevens. Okay, now what have you heard so far? These tinkly little sounds, definitely some vibes. It sounds like vibes and glockenspiel, and there's marimba and there's vibes on here. Okay, I am kind of thinking a little bit of Pierre Morland's Gong for obvious reasons, but with this like raga, the tabla and stuff that Gong never used. Come to think of it, this may be one of the few albums I've heard that features very prominent use of tabla, but doesn't have any sitar on it. Those vibraphones are played by Ray Spiegel, Japanese-American percussionist, composer, 23 credits according to Discogs. This seems to be about the earliest thing he appeared on. During the 80s, it seems as though he became... He recurrently worked with Patti Smythe, and a few, at least one Three Blind Mice title, Shunzu Ono. Same year as this, he was on an album called The Indian Bamboo Flute, a 1976 album that I haven't stumbled upon yet. Interesting. Gore Goswami and Stephen Gorn are the two headliners on the album. He plays tabla on the track. Think of it, I would like to hear a recording that mixes sitar with mallet instruments, vibes or marimba. I'm having a hard time thinking of anything off the top of my head. The way the vibraphone glows, because both the sitar and mallets, they both have very colorful tones. It's like sitars have that kind of buzzy sound. I think when I hear them, I think of like squiggly lines or like zigzags sometimes. And when I hear when I hear mallets, like when I hear marimbas, I think of polka dots. When I hear vibraphones, I think of glowing bulbs. I wonder if this is loud enough. This would be good, like Indian restaurant music, even if a little bit different because the vibraphone isn't really normally associated with that part of the world. The picture of them on the back of the album, it's, let's see, it's one of those silver covers that's hard to scan. Um, yeah, that metallic silver trend of the '70s. I think one of the issues of Hall and Oates' Silver album, hence its nickname, the Makeup album had one of those covers. There was a Grand Funk Railroad album that had one of those too. As a matter of fact, I think that was one of those circular. It was the same one. It was the circular one. Yeah, and so it's hard to scan without it having like reflections on it. But there's this big photo of the Diga Rhythm Band on back, and they've just got this immaculate like setup of like hand percussions in front, of standing percussions behind them, and these like a big mallet here, set up right here, and another one here, some timpanis behind them. Yeah, this would have been a sight to see these guys perform. I wonder how many Grateful Dead fans have gotten into this album. This isn't the only like really avant-garde Grateful Dead side project from the period. The keyboardist, I think, did an electronic album the year before, and there was this one of the funniest comments I ever saw on RYM was someone who remarked about it: a great album if you're a fish. Okay, the tabla players on this, there are five people credited with tabla. Aushim Kaduri, Joy Shulman, Peter Carmichael, Tor, Dite Rickson, and Zakir Hussain. Oh, one of these guys later, Aushum, he later played with the Clubfoot Orchestra. Yeah, Bay Area, I think, based avant-garde big band that did soundtrack music in the late '80s, early '90s. They did soundtracks to a touring version of Metropolis, I believe, and Felix Wu's Whoopee, like films from like the silent era type stuff. Now they're getting into some more like kind of like tighter, kind of groove oriented patterning. actually hearing like a pattern taking shape here, whereas before it had just been kind of atmospheric. Changing cadence, getting faster, brisker. It's still pretty loose, though. I mean, there seems to be like a few instruments that are taking that are coalescing around a pattern, while the tabla players are just kind of playing right through it. All they're really doing is just kind of following the pace, and as it gets brisker, and they're just kind of revving it up. Oh yeah, Mickey Hart is playing. He on this album he plays drums. It says traps in brackets. Uh, Gong, Timbales, and Timpani. And let's see, Jordan Amarantha, Congas and Bongos, and for what it's worth, Jim Loveless on Marimba, though I haven't heard that instrument on here yet. Maybe another track, probably. Again, there's just like so many like punctual like it's so even though there's no notes being played, I still find myself quite mesmerized by the density. There's just yeah, I get kind of like a polka dot vibe from just all that percussion, regardless of whether there's a tone to it. Just it's just knowing that there are so many hands active in this, like that. Even if you can't place any notes or anything, it's like it's still quite mesmerizing to think of how this like hit of this is interacting with this one and the hand over there and the hand over there and the hand over there, like with like about I don't know, like 10 hands hitting down in a given bar. That hand percussion sounds really staccato for well, hand percussion anyway. Some of them sound like they're like pulled really, the skins are pulled really tight. As a matter of fact, most of these don't even sound like they're being played by hand. They sound like they're being played with sticks. Hear the kettle drums? I didn't quite remember this record accurately. I gotta say, it's in a class of its own, and I don't really have anything to compare it to from this year or really any year because of the mixture of instruments for primarily. I sense we might be going into a pattern. It would be really nice to be able to see this live, to just kind of actually see with my own eyes who's doing what and where. Uh, like if I could point to like 4 or 5 people who are really making this, who are really driving this and really filling this out. Knowing that Mickey Hart is the one playing the timpani, I take it he's really stepping up right here. Because I don't really, I didn't really know where to point him out earlier on. No, I'm really selective about what kind of drum solos I accept. You have to be a really good drummer, and there were some average drummers who were taking advantage of the drum solo trend during like the first half of the '70s, anyway. But if more bands tried something like this, maybe where during the drum solo, like say several other members got on percussion as well to fill up some of the space and make it more active. Let's just say I think the quality control on drum solos would have been. I think there would have been a lot more great. Let's just say that the relatively small field of great drum solos from the era, I think, would have been a little bit more expansive. I love the trade-offs between the vibraphone takes a bar, then the others take a bar and back and forth. I wonder how much this was really written out or prepared in advance. I mean, I imagine they definitely had like some sort of organization behind this and some cues that went off. But like, I wonder, in terms of actual like writing composition, like, because I've only heard it seems to be much more just based on drum patterns and put into a sequence, really. That was Magnificent Sevens by the Diga Rhythm Band. Magnificent Sevens, yes. From the album Diga, released in 1976 on Round Records. I believe, yeah, that was the Grateful Dead's own label. Set up by Jerry Garcia. Yeah, they also put out some other. Oh, yeah, the album I was thinking of was Ned Lagan, Phil Lesh, Sea Stones. Yeah, Phil Lesh was a member. I don't know. Ned Lagan was never a member, but it was. Yeah, yeah. Someone remarked a great album if you're a fish. Um, yeah, that was on the label as well, and the Kingfish, yeah, side project of the Dead was active around this time. Yeah. There wasn't really a lot to take apart about this. It was because of the repetition, but I just have to say it was one of the more captivating, entertaining, like repetitive, and by and large noteless percussive jam fests I've listened to. All of about clocking in at just under 13 minutes. Although I started it around like the minute and 30-second mark because the first 90 seconds were just so quiet and sparse. And I was, even if I didn't have a lot to say, I was enthralled the whole time. Yeah. Anyway, for more Rubies and well, just the one album by them. For the other Reds and Purples from this album, see the directory of albums from 1976. Currently 1,741 titles strong. For albums from that wonderful year from around the world, a few that are in this similar, like, hard to define category, largely instrumental, jam oriented. And then many other genres, many other veins of music as well, from jazz to symphonic to folk to pop. And yeah. Like and subscribe, follow me on social media, and leave a comment if there are any observations you have about this track, the layers, the interplay. And until next time, this is Zaragon, the world's most ear travel trimaximalist, signing off.